Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. We're looking at how to find the output or input of a function from its graph. In our first video in this series, Introduction to Functions, we talked a little bit about this, but in this video with graph samples we'll be finding the output and input of a function from the given graph. So let's start with the first example. So here you have a graph. This is a graph of function g, and it's a parabola. Now we see from this graph that g of minus 2. Let me increase the size of this graph. Let's increase the size of this graph. Yes, we see from this graph that g of minus 2 is 1. So what you do when you have a graph is on the point of the input, that's on the x-axis, where in this case x is minus 2. So you have x as minus 2. You trace up on that graph at that minus 2. You trace until you meet the graph line, and then you find its y coordinate. So let's find the g of 6, or that will be, now let's say g of 4. So you just have to follow my cursor line. So on 4, this is 4 on the x-axis, which is the input. You move up until you meet with the graph line, and once you meet with the graph line, you trace it down to the y-axis. And for this, we have our value at this point. This is the point where it just touches, and we can take that as 6.5. How about g of 3? G of 3. So you find 3 on your x-axis, you trace it up until it touches the graph line, you find the y coordinates, which is also 3. Alright, let's move to the second graph. So for this second graph, we want to find f of minus 4. F of minus 4. And this is exactly the same process as I just showed you in the last graph. But then let's find x when f of x is minus 5. We want to find x when f of x is minus 5. So for this, you've been given the output but not the input. So what you do is, because the output is always on the y-axis, you locate minus 5 on the y-axis. This is minus 5 on the y-axis. Then when you look at minus 5 on the y-axis, you trace it up to its x. You trace it. In other words, you are trying to answer at what input do we have output as minus 5? At what input do we have output at minus 5? So this is minus 5, and at minus 5, you have the graph line touching that point exactly at minus 5, and it's 0. So you see that f of 0 gives you minus 5. Let's do that again. Let me wipe this. Let's do that again. You find the y-axis. In our case, this is minus 5, and coincidentally too, in this case, our graph line already touches minus 5 at that point on the y-axis. So you're going to just have to move your cursor up or your line up until you get to the x-axis. Whatever point that is on the x-axis is the corresponding input. Let's try this for another one. Let's say we want to find the f of x when our output is, let's say, -3. So because this is a parabola, it is possible for you to have two inputs giving you one output. For example, in this, you have f of x where it gives us -3. So this is -3, right? You see that from the left and from the right, you have the graph line. So let's take this way. So from -3, it touches here on the graph line. So you move up to the x-axis, and that's f of 2 equals -3. Or you can also use this way and up here. So f of -2 is also equals -3. So whether you say x is 2 or x is -2, you are absolutely correct. So the next one should be an assignment for you. Take a look at it. You want to find g of 1, and you want to find x when g of x is -4. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click on the subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one, where we'll be talking about domain and range of functions.